Hum diddle 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 hum diddle lie, hum diddle 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 hum diddle lie, hum diddle 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 hum diddle lie. It's Pandora's box. Hum diddle 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 hum diddle lie, hum diddle 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 hum diddle lie, hum diddle 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 hum diddle lie. It's Pandora's box. It's Pandora's box today. Are you ready for a new episode with me and you? Pandora's box is coming on through. It's Pandora's box. It's Pandora's box. It's Pandora's box. It's Pandora's box.
Welcome to Pandora's box. You dream of a world with endless skies, limitless horizons stretching out over a colossal landscape, sweeping you up into the cosmos. Yes. Welcome to Pandora's box, everyone. That track that played us in today was Endless Skies by Ashbury. Love Ashbury. So epic. And I think the musicianship is awesome. It's actually just two brothers that...
bros.
Yeah, just two bros that do the music. So they just do all the instruments, all the writing. I absolutely love it. They got like a bit of flamenco guitar in there. Some real cool sort of like old school rock guitar in, epic solos, beautiful vocals, and I love that sort of fantasy style, you know, old school rock with like fantasy
Gotta love it, man.
elements, you know, fantasy elements. So yeah, welcome once again to Pandora's Box, everyone. We are having a good week.
Marvelous.
It is Wednesday night, and we are going to be with you up until 9 p.m, where Chris Red Jam will take over with his midweek alternative music show.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yes, where Chris will champion the up-and-coming artists of this world.
Of the universe.
Spread the jam.
Yeah, should we just like just go into it balls deep with a fact?
I think so.
So I've got a question
fact.
for everyone. What does a female lion have in common with Drew?
A mane? No, it hasn't got a mane because the male lion has a mane.
You got a beard, which is like the equivalent of a mane, so it's not that. I'll tell you. When a female lion is in heat, she can have sex up to 100 times a day. A lioness mates up to 100.
That's the best compliment I've ever had.
Well,
I like it.
Well, I've been on talking terms with some of your exes. A lioness mates up to 100 times per day with an average interval of 17 minutes.
Cool.
They can range between 4 minutes to 148 minutes. 4 minutes. That's cool. I bet she had not. I mean, I don't want to be rude or explicit, right, but I'm just talking about. I'm just being trying to think and be considerate towards the female lion. Surely she had like a sore genitalia. I mean, just, you know. I mean,
Surely
male,
you gotta work up to
male
that.
lions are big, powerful beasts as well. You know what I mean? You know, I'm just saying.
Damn.
I'm just saying. You know?
Have you ever seen those photos from like zoos and out in the wild, where because I don't think the males want to do it as much as
The males?
the male lions. As the
weird,
lionesses, but there's like photos and they'll go up and like bite.
It's like going up north.
And bite the males.
Bulls.
Yeah,
oh,
the males' bulls
I've
to try
seen
and
that,
like
entrance
entrance them into doing it, and then you can just see the
I know
lions
what's going to
just
make
looking
you want to
really
do it more.
sad.
I'm going to bite your balls.
To be fair, it would be
fair enough.
Just a little nibble, cheeky nibble. Oh well, all right, darling. Just let me finish my dinner first.
I thought in prides and stuff. I must be wrong. I thought it was like one male, like there was the
one or two, yeah.
Yeah. So they've got to.
So I think sometimes I don't know if this is always the case, but I think sometimes they're like brothers.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that has to be the case.
I thought there was one alpha.
Yeah,
like,
if the male like sees obviously another male as a rival, then they'll fight. But I think sometimes like brothers,
when they're in the pack,
like brothers will like come into a new pride. They'll kill the old male, and then it's quite savagery. They kill all the young like cubs, the lion cubs, and
because
then
they think it's the male.
well, because it's competition. Yeah. So they knock up the female lions,
make their own,
and then get their own ones. Yeah. So yeah, but I think it's like one or two males are usually like leading the pack. But yeah, it says Selection may be... Oh, yeah, so each mating session for a lion only lasts on average about 21 seconds. So for majestic beasts...
It's almost not worth it.
Yeah, so for majestic beasts, they can't really go for very long, can they? So
hence 100 times a day.
Yeah, well, the males don't go 100 times a day, just the ladies. Maybe that's why they need it, because the males don't last very long, so they don't get much pleasure. You know, although saying that, I don't think lions get any pleasure from
I think there's only a few animals that
rats,
do it
dolphins,
for pleasure.
humans, other apes. I think that might be it. Selection may be initiated by either member of the pair who remains close during the period of the female's fertility. The female usually invites the male to have intercourse by assuming a position known as lordosis, or in human terms, cowgirl. There is little competition amongst pride males during mating. Instead of fighting to be the first to mate with the fertile female, a male will follow her around very closely at the first signs of fertility onset. Other males keep their distance unless there is a clear size difference, in which case a larger male may fight a smaller one. This works because females have a long fertility period and copulate many times during that period. Males may lose interest before the end of the fertility period, giving patient males a chance to get in there.
If you wait long enough.
Yeah. So for all of the, the runts of the litter, there is a time and a place for you.
There is hope.
There is a time and a place for you, but you'll just have to be a little bit more patient than the big old alpha males.
Nice guys finish last.
Literally in this case. So another quick fire fact, let's go into it. Scientists have found the fossils of fish on the peaks of the Himalayan mountains, a fact which contributes to the theory that the entire Earth used to be completely covered in water. Obviously, if at the highest mountain there's fossilized fish that must have once been under the ocean. So once we were a water world. So I know that once, a very, very long time ago, there used to be one big supercontinent before the continents broke up into what we now know today. So obviously like Europe, North America, South America, Africa, all of those lots. Do you know what the supercontinent used to be called?
Pangea.
That's right, Bullwinkle, you remember. I know we have talked about it on a former Pandora's box, but yeah, if you go back even before Pangea, the world would have once been a water world, like that movie with Kevin Costner where he had webbed feet.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
That was actually quite good.
I like that.
Yeah, I remember watching it.
Soil is really expensive, and he bought that whole shop just in with a few.
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember Kevin Costner webbed feet, and he had just a raft, and they were like pirates or something. Yeah, like bad guys, weren't they?
Yeah, and he had gills.
Yeah, he had gills and webbed hands and feet, where they'd start the humans had started to evolve to live obviously in the water world. Apparently that movie was a massive flop. I remember hearing that.
I really liked that movie.
Yeah, I thought it was good as well. Apparently it cost, I can't remember what studio it was, whether it was Universal or Warner Bros or something. At the time it was one of the most expensive movies ever made.
Whoa.
But they only made back half the money it cost to make. They thought it was going to be the biggest movie of all time.
Do you know
relatively
the
name, it was a flop.
The name of the movie? I can search up and see it sort of box office.
Waterworld.
Waterworld.
Yeah. Kevin Costner, Waterworld.
Have you seen this new thing that's Westworld?
Oh yeah,
it just reminded me of that. And you know who's that little girl actress that was she's been in quite a few things, and she was this little ninja woman.
I haven't properly seen it, man. So I don't know.
Man, there's this actor who's a girl that was in this the movie, and she was like a ninja girl, ninja superhero girl.
Yeah.
But basically, she's in a new either movie or series that is with the makers of Westworld, and it looks really cool.
Nice. on Waterworld, the budget was $175 million.
That's back in the 90s.
But the box office, surprisingly, 264.2 million. So they still made about 100 mil profit.
Did they?
Yeah, but like you were saying, looking
is that
at the reviews
now though?
Wasn't too good. I'm not entirely sure. It just says box office.
Because I remember hearing that when it came out, it was a flop.
Yeah. Because sometimes on the first day, it either be you get the whole money back in the first day sometimes, don't they? I
know some movies might be a flop in the cinema, but then when the DVD comes out, for some reason, loads of people buy the DVD.
Yeah,
that's obviously dying now.
Recently, it was like that.
Yeah,
but it does say that here. It said when it was originally released, it was a flop. But I'm just trying to find how much they made after that and when it came around. But yeah, you're definitely right.
Yeah. yeah, I remember like hearing. I saw like a little clip of Matt Damon randomly recently. Matt Damon, and he was saying about how in the olden days they used to really look forward to the DVDs coming out because they would then make like just as much, if not more, money than when it was released in cinemas. They're saying that's obviously like a dying thing nowadays because like not many people buy Blu-ray or DVD now. People just wait until things are out on like streaming services, whether it's Amazon or Netflix or whatever. So I'm struggling to see, Drew, who this child actor is.
It's that girl there.
Let's have a look. Does it say her name?
Like if you just watch a bit of
Office,
that,
but
you'll
not-
recognise her.
Let's have a look. I'm sorry, I'm watching this trailer a minute.
And the thing is called The Peripheral, which is
Right.
the series that's coming out on Amazon Prime, and I thought, it looks really cool.
Right, so I'm watching.
Do you recognise her? Like that?
Oh yeah, I do recognise her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's an actor and played like she was like a young'un.
Yeah. So for some reason, I don't think she's on the cast thing that's I've got up here for whatever reason.
For what? For Westworld?
Yeah.
So it's the makers of Westworld that have done Peripheral.
I see. Yeah, I've definitely seen her in a couple of things though. I can't remember her name in real life.
Yeah.
It says here, ultimately it was labelled as an ambitious misfire. Nevertheless, it opened at number 1 at the box office.
But
and
Westworld?
made, no, Waterworld.
Waterworld. Right.
And made $88 million domestically, which in a vacuum is not a gross to be ashamed of in the mid-90s. It also accumulated a further $176 million at the international box office. So, the international box office is where it came in.
baby.
Yeah, I remember thinking it was okay. Like when I watched it when I was a kid. I remember it was like the 90s when I watched it. Because I remember it was like in my in my
me
parents'
too.
old house, and I was like, so I must have been under 8.
So I loved Kevin Costner films as
Yeah,
well,
he's a
like
good actor,
Robin
isn't he?
Hood, Prince of Thieves.
That's a good movie. Yeah,
Oh man, I
that's a real
loved
good
that movie.
That's a classic.
As a kid.
Brian Adams.
Yeah, man.
That's where the what was it? Everything I Do. Wasn't that written for that movie? And they shot it in just around the corner from us in Holford.
Holford, yeah.
Yeah.
And Kilve.
Yeah. So funny, isn't it? Such a cheesy song. Got another quickfire fact for us now. In 2007, a married couple from Bosnia began cheating on each other in online chat rooms. Can you imagine where this is going? They met their soulmates and spent hours talking about their marriage problems to each other. When they finally decided to meet their soulmates in real life, they realised that they had been talking to each other this entire time and quickly divorced.
Oh my
That's brutal,
God.
isn't it?
Yeah, imagine.
That just sounds so stupid.
Imagine it.
It's weird that they thought they met their soulmates and they were talking about their issues with their spouses, and then it just turned out they were just talking to each other.
So
How
stupid.
ironic is it that they almost verified the fact that they are soulmates by doing that, and then still just went on to divorce because they were trying to cheat on
they
each other?
both were basically deliberately being unfaithful though. That's the thing. They were like meeting up with another person behind their partner's back, but they were both doing it to each other with each other, which is retarded. You can imagine what a weird and horrible feeling that would give you inside. Like you couldn't go on with a relationship with somebody after that. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like, this is just messed up. This is weird.
Yeah.
This is just like not working, obviously. Yeah. Weird. Right.
Absolutely weird.
So another quickfire fish now. This is a quickfire fish.
Quickfire fetish.
Female fish can fake an orgasm to trick the male into thinking they've successfully mated and then swim off to find a better partner. I've never found a couple of ladies that do that in real life as well. But yeah, I mean, not too surprised about that one really. Seems like pretty, you know what I mean? It's like, I guess if like a little weird runty fish is apprehended the lady, let him believe it, you know, ignorance is bliss. And then, another quickfire fact, the average person spends roughly 79 years on Earth. Out of those years, we spend 26 years sleeping and about 7 years trying to get to sleep on average. That seems mental, doesn't it?
Yeah, a long old time.
When you hear about things like that, I think it just seems a bit crazy.
How long trying to get to sleep?
7.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
It makes me like, it makes you think, I wish I didn't spend that much of my life sleeping. But then I think of like how good it feels when you've had like a real nice good sleep and like an amazing dream or something. It's like, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this is quite a cool one. Obviously, there's a lot of debate whether like watching like violent movies or playing violent video games like makes children grow up to be like more antisocial and stuff. So a guy basically did a little like tested this on his 4-year-old son, and he let his 4-year-old son play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas to see if it would affect his son's behaviour over the course of a couple of months. But once he let his son play it, he found out that the innocent kid, his innocent son, used the wide open game to arrest criminals, help firefighters, and drive the wounded to hospitals in an ambulance, refusing to steal any cars or drive recklessly. When his father asked him why he did this, or why he didn't do anything bad, he said because that would be wrong. What a nice little lad.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't even realise you could do that on GTA.
Yeah.
Go and like join the
No,
join
I didn't
the
either.
firefighters.
I didn't know that either. Yeah. Just like take somebody to hospital.
Mm.
It's because you're too busy killing everyone,
Yeah.
Bullwinkle. Because you're part of the Hitler Youth now. Everyone, check out this Hitler Youth haircut. All right. So I'm sorry, everybody. We don't condone it on Pandora, but he's a bit of a rogue. He's a bit of a rogue on this channel.
Rogue German.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a bit of a rogue German.
Rogue German.
In this otherwise diplomatic and English show.
Mm.
If identical twin sisters were to have children with identical twin brothers, their children would genetically be siblings, not cousins. That's a bit weird, isn't it?
Wait, what?
Genetically be siblings, not
Yeah.
cousins.
Because of how similar they'd be genetically.
Mm.
In theory, we would expect their children to be genetically as similar as full siblings are to each other. A professor of genetics at the University of Pennsylvania stated, siblings born to the same set of parents share about half their genes with one another. For every child that's born, it's like drawing a handful of marbles from a jar. You get half of your DNA from your mum and half from your dad. Cousins don't draw from the same jar, but in this case, the children of the two sets of parents would be drawing from two separate but identical jars. So the expectation would be that they would share half their DNA, as full siblings would. So yeah.
My mum had a real funny thing this week.
What's that?
She sent away her ancestry DNA, and me and my brothers have done it, and her brother, my uncle, has done it as well. And what was fascinating, of course, Jake and Josh are my half brothers.
Yeah.
So we share about 25%. I share 26% DNA with Jake, 23% DNA with Josh.
Interesting that it's less with Josh. Then
Yeah, I think I look more like Jake, so that would kind of make sense. But yeah. My mum did it, and her results came through. And with her full brother, of course, they should share 50%, as Jake and Josh really do. But it came up that she only shares 28% with her full brother. And it didn't even on the app. It comes up as like, if it is your full brother, it would just say brother. And then with me and Jake and Josh, it just says like close family.
Right.
But that was the same with my mum and her brother. Was that it just came up saying close family? So,
well, Pauline's been found out.
yeah.
Sorry, Nanny Pauline.
Outed.
Sorry.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Bit awkward.
Yeah, my uncle said that he knows the reason for it. Apparently, there's like he hasn't actually spoken to my mum. But I'd be interested to know if there was like because I don't know how much it can vary on that. Like
Spectrum.
of how much
Yeah.
percentage you can actually inherit with your sibling. If
So
that's
Josh and Jake
are
are bang on 50%, are they?
it might be slightly. It's around 50. I
Right.
know that much. It's not like much off 50.
Right.
But either high 40s or maybe
That's
even
interesting.
more.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I thought that was quite fascinating. That if it can, if Nanny wasn't doing anything crazy, then that's still mental. That
It's a big variation.
I saw her at Jake's party, man. Having at the Death by Kai gig even. Wouldn't put anything past her.
Yeah, she likes a good time, Pauline. Yeah, I'm very much like Nanny Pauline.
She's a bundle of joy.
I'm a big fan of the woman. Respect, Pauline.
Friend of the pod.
Any man would be lucky to have you. So
Anyway, Quickfire Facts.
Every November, South Korean 18-year-olds take an 8-hour college entrance exam during which the country's store close, military training is stopped, flights are grounded, and everyone is required to be as quiet as possible so that the students are allowed to focus. Isn't that mental? That's like taking it really extreme, isn't it?
Quiet as a mouse.
Yeah, at the exact time of 8:40 a.m. More than 500,000 students take their exam, so they just basically shut down the country while that happens, so that everyone can concentrate.
I quite like that. I think
Yeah.
that's like quite. That's quite cool. Quite,
Yeah.
Putting a lot of respect on the future generations. That's
Yeah, you got to invest, haven't you?
Hats off.
Yeah. If you are too drunk or violent in Japan, the police get a large futon and roll you into a small burrito. Then they carry you away.
No.
That doesn't seem like it's real, does it?
Large
But it does-
futon.
Japan has virtually eradicated gun crime. Among the biggest contributors to low levels of gun violence are the police, who prefer to rely on their skills in martial arts and futon rolling. This is blatantly a prank, isn't it? Rather than using weapons. The first instinct is not to reach for a gun. What most Japanese police would do is get huge futons and essentially roll up the person who is being violent or drunk into a little human burrito and carry them back to the station and calm them down. The response to violence is never violence. It is to de-escalate. It's the fact that it's when
I wouldn't put it past the Japanese as well.
It's just funny when it says among the biggest contributors to lower levels of gun violence are the police, who prefer to rely on their martial arts skills and futon rolling rather than weapons. That's just what makes it to me just be like, is that real or not? Oh, do you want to hear a little sad one? In the 1920s, a dog waited for 9 years after the death of his owner outside a train station every morning until he himself passed away.
Oh.
Rest in peace, pup. You are loyal.
There's a famous dog in Scotland as well called Bobby.
Is that like there's a statue of him in Edinburgh? It's a little
in
Scotty
Edinburgh.
dog.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
My granddad was telling me about it, and it was a dog that went and like on its owner's grave in Scotland every day.
Aww.
A similar story. So they made a little statue of him.
Man's best friend.
That's so nice, isn't it?
Bless.
A person with damage to the right brain hemisphere can develop a joke addiction, a compulsive need to constantly make and tell jokes even when they don't want to.
The Joker.
Yeah, maybe that's the
Literally.
origin story of the Joker, yeah. A right-handed man was given a neuropsychiatric evaluation because of a 5-year-long history of compulsive joking. During the interview, the patient reported feeling generally joyful, but his compulsive need to make jokes and create humour had become an issue of contention with his wife. I love that. That's so funny. He would wake her up in the middle of the night bursting out with laughter just to tell her about the jokes he had come up with in the night. Oh, this guy sounds like a right crap. At the request of his wife, he started writing down these jokes as a way to avoid waking her up. As a result, he's filled over 50 pages with jokes. Oh, I love that.
Man, he's got to get a job being a comedian.
Yeah. I love it if they were all like really bad jokes. But that would just make it even funnier in a way.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? That'd just make it even funnier. During the late 1800s, a baboon was employed by the railroads as a signalman. He never once made a mistake and worked for the railroad until his death. Remember, I heard that so long ago, that fact.
A baboon?
Yeah, his name was Jack, and he was a Chacma baboon who attained some fame for acting as an assistant to a disabled railway signalman in South Africa. Jack was the pet and assistant of double-leg amputee signalman James Wide, who worked for the Cape Town Port Elizabeth Railway Service. James Jumper Wide had been known for jumping between rail cars until an accident where he fell and lost both of his legs. To assist in performing his duties, Wide purchased the baboon named Jack in 1881 and trained him to push his wheelchair and operate the railway signals under supervision. That's pretty good, isn't it? Fair play to the baboon. He just never made a mistake. This is a good one. In 1849, enslaved American Henry Brown packed himself in a box and mailed himself to a state where slavery was illegal. So when he got out of the box, he was a free man.
Nice.
That's just smart, isn't it, really? Brown moved to Massachusetts. Brown moved to Massachusetts. And with the help of abolitionists, went on tour where he recounted his daring escape to spectators who were also thrilled about it as a miracle of the modern postal delivery system. Pretty good, isn't it?
That's cool.
After the Fugitive Slave Act was passed in 1850, Brown moved to Great Britain, where he remained for several decades before moving back to the United States, and then on to Toronto, Canada, where he died in 1897. I suppose he liked coming to the UK. It was a lot more free as
the first one
as a
to,
black man. First country, yeah. First country to willingly abolish slavery. Yeah, I mean...
Thank you, Jordan Peterson.
Obviously, the Romans never did that. Or your Vikings certainly never did that. Even the Africans themselves never did that. The Portuguese or the Spaniards. The Great Britain was the first country to do it. Fair play. And although it went on to cause mass civil war in the country, they also gave back India sovereignty back to the people, which obviously is quite a rare thing. To willingly give up a territory like that. Historically, you would only regain your country by force. But the Brits went, okay, have it back after everything with Gandhi. Unfortunately, that led to a mass civil war. and hundreds of thousands of Indians died.
I love it how you like photographically like memorized his whole speech that he did on the Queen.
yeah.
Because that was part of that as well, wasn't it?
Was it? I couldn't even remember the India bit.
Yeah.
It makes sense though, because if you're going to talk about that, that's what you bring up.
Yeah.
I remember obviously him saying about that was such a good video shit, man. Yeah, him going obviously about how we, British people should be proud about that. You know, I think there's such an emphasis on almost like talking about all the bad points. Such a negative way of looking at things, isn't it? Such a negative way. Or it's like it's like when people say, I was chatting to Chris, as in Chris Redjam's alternative music show, when we were on the way to see a band in Glastonbury. And we were talking about how a lot of people say, like the Monarchies got blood on their hands. And I was like, yeah, but we all have blood on our hands. Yeah. I mean, I can't remember. Have we talked about this before? But I was like saying, like literally, it's like if you were alive today, every single one of our ancestors have blood on their hands. Every single one of our ancestors. Like if we were alive today, every single one of
brutal world.
Yeah, it's either you were like kill or be killed. If you go back far enough, you'll literally be kill or be killed. It's like if you were like say like a caveman or our ancestors that go back to like caveman times, if you weren't gonna kill somebody else, then sometimes they were gonna kill you. So it's like if you want to be like these people are bad because they got blood on their hands, it's like we all got blood on our hands. If you want to be like that, if you want to judge everyone by your ancestors, like every single one of us will have killers. Every single one of our ancestors, every single one of us will have ancestors that are killers. So, it's a hard one, isn't it? But yeah, I think no society, the same as like a human being themselves, no society is perfect. And I think as long as we are striving for excellence. Yeah, striving to make your society as just as possible. The same way that you should strive to make yourself the most.
And that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
literally. Yes. By doing that in yourself, then your society will come.
Rather than being negative, pointing the finger, and sort of dissing up your own country because it's popular or trendy, or
Yeah, man.
Stuff like that.
Be the change that you see in the world.
Talking about awesome, sort of interesting political and loosely historical stuff. Have you watched any of the House of the Dragon?
I've only watched 2 episodes, which is really annoying. I need to get onto it.
Mate, I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
And my mate Toby, he's really into it, and he was talking to me about it the other day, and he was saying that like the way that they've got so much like almost like political talk in the hall, in the Great Hall where they're all discussing. He was like, some people like find it really boring and that, but he's like, he actually loves it, like the political intrigue in that of like the show, of like these like kind of talk. And I was like, I think cool.
It's all interesting, man. It's all interesting. I think it does do a good job. I can see what he's getting at. So it's like I think it does a good job of like I think some people maybe think that like if you were say king or queen, it'd be pretty easy. Maybe like, it'd be pretty simple, like what I say goes, but obviously it's a lot more complicated than that. Like the amount of just like diplomacy you have to go through, and just like it's so hard to keep everyone happy, and if you make this house happy or then this house might kick off. If you want to wed your son to this lady, then this family might take it as a slight. Do you know what I mean? And they might even want to go to war with you. So then it's like, how do you keep the realm in balance? So yeah, it is obviously. I mean, that's obviously. I think Game of Thrones is in general, whether it's House of the Dragon or like the Song of Ice and Fire, which obviously is what the Game of Thrones TV series is based on, is like really good at depicting that. Yeah, and obviously you see that in all history, whether it's like British or otherwise. Like a lot of obviously the or most of the wars, maybe you could even say in British history, going far back, have been caused from basically like. Political and diplomatic tensions, so it's like, I mean, why the Battle of Hastings happened, is because basically Edward the Confessor at some point in his life told, at the time, his name was William the Bastard, went on to become known as William the Conqueror after Hastings, basically said to him, when I die, you can have the throne of England. But then on his deathbed, he said to Harold Godwinson, right, I want you to be my successor. And then meanwhile, Harold had rather felt like he was a successor because, he'd
already said that to him.
Well, I'm not sure I can't remember if he said it to Harold Hardrada, but I think it was like he was related to Edward the Confessor, and I think Harold Hardrada might have. I'm not sure on this actually. I'm not sure if he was related.
He
to,
had some.
I'm not sure
claim
if he
to
was
the
related to
throne.
Canute or not. I need to quickly refresh my memory on that, my history. But yeah, he had a strong claim to the throne anyway. I'm pretty sure he was related to Edward the Confessor somehow. So he was like, well, I should be king. And then it was almost Edward the Confessor's fault, really. Do you know what I mean? If you were like basically saying like to all these different people, you can have the throne of England, then what's going to happen?
He's just singing, I'm going to watch from my grave, you all fight over it.
So Harold Godwinson was the one that was like in England at the time. So he was like, cool, I'm king now. But then William the Bastard heard about it in Normandy and was like, no. He promised it to me like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then Harold Hardrada's like, I'm like a relation of the throne and I'm like the king of Norway and all this. Like, I'm like the baddest warrior in Europe. I should be the freaking king. Next thing you know, Battle of Stamford Bridge, Battle of Hastings, and
Do you think that's why monarchies haven't survived as much as, say, like political parties have like took over now and stuff? Because like when that was in play or when that happened, it could literally spark like fights between whole countries, nations, massive. It could affect massive amounts of people from one person just like kicking off about something. But now with like politics and stuff, it has to be a more diplomatic approach.
Well, it's supposed to be.
Supposed to be.
But like, I think you could almost argue that nowadays it's almost like that's a bit ruined or a bit spoiled. I don't necessarily think that we feel necessarily nowadays that our political parties speak for us as much as they should. Yeah. But I mean, obviously, I do think the idea behind governments rather than monarchies is because of that. But I personally think that a good monarch and a good government aren't that different. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like, you can have bad.
For the people.
So what I'm getting at is like you could have a bad government and you could have a bad monarch.
Yeah.
But you could also have a good
monarch and a good government. Yeah.
I think Britain has probably thrived in the past just as well under a good monarch as they have under a good government. The thing is also you could also say that the more I believe this personally as like a personal mantra. The more voices you put into a system, the more complicated and confusing it's going to become. So what we often have nowadays in politics, and you see it with...
And the longer it takes for something to happen, the changes to occur.
And you see it in modern day politics all the time, whether it's in the UK or abroad, is what happens is often if like the Prime Minister or President is held accountable for something, they'll say, well, that wasn't me, that was my Foreign Secretary, or that was the head of state, or they didn't do what I told them to do, so they messed up. So it's like passing on the baton of blame, whereas if there's just one person in control, it's a lot easier to be like, oh, okay, well, this person's...
This happened under your watch.
So, I mean, Britain's been... under good kings and queens of England, Britain has thrived. I mean, you see, like, some really good monarchs, like Queen Elizabeth I was an absolute don. So was Henry V.
Henry VIII, on the other hand.
Henry VIII, not so good diplomatically, literally just started his own religion because he wanted to just basically just have loads of wives.
Beheaded a load of wives.
Yeah, hung a few,
And
I think another reason as well for democracy is because everyone wants to have like, their say on who they think should be in charge too, right? That's like
of course.
The main reason.
Yeah.
I also found out that you were correct as well, Calum. Harold Hardrada believed that he was the rightful heir to the English throne because he was a descendant of King Canute.
Right, yeah. I thought that was probably the case.
So you were right on that. I did have a question too. House of the Dragon, is it a prequel?
Yes.
So you don't have to have watched any of the actual Game of Thrones.
No, I think it's set like 250 years before, something like that. Yeah, so at the time of House of the Dragon, the head of the realm is King Viserys Targaryen. So it's sort of... it's not halfway through the Targaryen reign, because obviously the Targaryens invaded Westeros in this whole fantasy of Game of Thrones land. So the Targaryens were a foreign power that invade from a place called Valyria that invaded Westeros on their dragons. It was a very, very rare ability to be able to tame dragons and be a dragon rider, but some of the Valyrians had that power to do it. The blood of the dragon, they say. And so the Valyrians invaded Westeros with dragons. King Aegon the Conqueror, was the guy that invaded with his two sisters, and he had the biggest dragon in the world at the time, as we knew of anyway, called Balerion the Black Dread, and apparently it was just this colossal dragon. And just basically conquered Westeros. So by the time of House of the Dragon, it's like a couple of hundred years into the reigns of the Targaryens. So there's King Viserys, his younger brother Daemon Targaryen. He's got his daughter, I think, Rhaenyra. And then it's his cousin or a sister called
It
Rhaenys.
surprises me that they didn't start it at that. You know, the fact that they went back to a prequel.
They could have started almost anywhere. I think it would have been interesting.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
but with that, what you're saying about the Black Dread.
The Conqueror, the
yeah,
Black Dread,
like imagine
that would have been
like
epic.
seeing like them first come over from like
I think that as well.
Yeah, but they started like halfway through their reign.
I also think what would be a really interesting series would be actually Robert's Rebellion. Because you know Game of Thrones starts and it's like 30 years after Robert's Rebellion, and Robert Baratheon's like gotten fat, and he's like a bit like depressed, isn't he? And so he's just drinking all the time, and he's just sort of drinking and whoring, and he just sort of and hunting. Like he's almost like he doesn't want to rule really.
Yeah.
And because he was in love with is it Lyanna Stark, Ned Stark's sister, but she died all those years previously. He's like been heartbroken ever since, and he's in like a loveless marriage to Cersei, who's just like banging her twin brother, which is a bit weird.
And that one didn't he like kill? He was the Kingslayer, wasn't he? As well?
So he killed Daenerys Targaryen and Viserys. So there was another. So not the Viserys we were just talking about, but Daenerys' older brother was called Viserys as well. There's in the Targaryen family. There's like they often give the same names. Sort of. It seems to be about like 10 names that are just constantly recycled. So because
that would have been cool to see that as well. Like because they always call him the Kingslayer.
Yeah.
But you never actually see that happen, or you never actually see like
so he was called
that,
the Mad
that story. Yeah.
I think
the
his
Mad
name was
King,
the Mad King. I think his name was Aerys Targaryen. I think Aerys.
So yeah, we don't know about any of that, but that's all. When I was
stories,
watching Game of Thrones, I was thinking like,
I would love to see that.
That was crazy. That sounded cool.
I reckon that sounds like it would be a fascinating story, because obviously, think the Targaryens were in power, and then the whole idea that like Robert Baratheon was just like this insanely powerful like warlord, and then just basically just like had enough. And because it was basically, I think it had like started for several reasons, but it was like this bubbling. Well, it's a bit like the whole point of what we've been talking about like politics and like having to be diplomatic. But yeah, things just go wrong, especially if you've got a tyrannical king like the Mad King Aerys, and then it was like Rhaegar Targaryen, who was the oldest of them. So it was like Daenerys Targaryen's oldest brother. Like he was like in love with Lyanna Stark as well, but so was Robert Baratheon, and Robert Baratheon thought that Rhaegar had taken her prisoner
in a tower or something.
in a Tower of Joy, and then Ned Stark's father and his older brother were both killed by the Mad King. So then the Starks and the Baratheons went
Teamed
to war,
up.
and then obviously because the North is so massive, all the northern houses for the most part ended up joining Ned and the Stormlands, which is where the Baratheons are from, and especially like Ned Stark was a good warrior, but especially Robert Baratheon was, and then it ended up at I think it was the Battle of the Trident, which is when Rhaegar's army, the Targaryen army essentially, met with Robert and Ned's army, and then they had this massive battle, and Rhaegar was supposed to be like one of the best warriors in the land as well. So they had this epic battle, and then in the end, Robert Baratheon was known for carrying this massive warhammer, and he smashed in Rhaegar's breastplate and apparently broke every rib in his body, killed him, and then apparently he had this really ornate black armor that had rubies all into it, and all the rubies went into the ford when Robert smashed in his chest, essentially killed him instantly. And ever since after that, I think the ford where they fought in just became renamed the Ruby Red Ford.
So is this whole story that they're detailing now in the House of the Dragon, is that all pre-written already? Because I know at the end of Game of Thrones, like was it the final season, or was it more than that as well, that they would just not go in?
Yeah, this
with
is
an
written
actual
as
book?
well, and it's about halfway. Because my mate Toby came around and he showed me the book, and he was like, "I'm reading it at the moment," but it starts about halfway through the book.
Right.
The House of the Dragon starts about halfway through this massive book that he's reading. So I don't know what it's called, but yeah, it is.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called either.
Man, your Game of Thrones knowledge is like insane.
Yeah,
like,
but my Lord of the Rings knowledge. Mate, I just love fantasy, you know.
Yeah.
So any fantasy, I like just knows like those about. I love fantasy, man. I love like.
It's crazy that they can create these whole worlds and these whole like it's like they're real.
The
you know?
creativity of these authors, man, whether it's Tolkien or Martin and that, I just think fair play. But I love that. I love just immersing myself in that whole world, you know. And you're like learning about all the houses and learning about the first men. So like the oldest families in Westeros are like the first men, which is what the Starks are, and they've got their old religion, which is like the werewood trees, you know, the trees with the faces on. It's like Garth the Green and all this. It's very like old. You can tell it's based on like old school druidic paganism.
Yeah.
And then it's like Westeros was invaded by the Andals, which I can tell George R.R. Martin was inspired by the invasion of the Anglo-Saxons a bit. It even sounds like Angles, like Anglo-Saxons. And then that was like a lot of these families came in, so like the Arryns were Andals. You know, like the House Arryn, do you remember in the Vale in Game of Thrones?
Ships.
Where no, Arryn was like, you know, in the Vale, and they had that door, and it was like up on a mountain, and you were just full. So that was like House Arryn, so they were Andals. So then they sort of integrated with the First Men culture. But there are some houses still in Westeros which are like the First Men, and they're like the original men of Westeros. So that's like Starks, Lannisters, some of those houses. Yeah, I find it all fascinating, man. But yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see like Robert Baratheon's uprising. You know, if they
so it's like, are they just keeping them in the bag so they've got some amazing like content to film in the future? You know.
Yeah, it's like I hope they do that, and it'd almost be cool. Like if they got some really good actors to play like a young Robert and like a young Ned and everything, that would be freaking good, man.
What you know, like actors nowadays.
Yeah.
Like for me, it seems everything that's coming out with like newer actors is like less impressive, and I don't know whether it's just because I'm used to the good actors that I know, like say from Lord of the Rings or like something, but it doesn't seem to be as like epic as like then. And I don't know what's going. Is it something that's happening with acting?
I think that maybe because of the advancements in technology, I think that maybe sometimes writing in some cases is a bit sloppy because there's too much of an emphasis on stuff like CGI. I think like the original Star Wars movie is a good example of that. Like they didn't have the option because I think that was like the late 70s they made A New Hope, and they had to somehow make freaking Death Star battles and that in the 70s, man. Do you know what I mean? Like. So it's like they couldn't rely on making people go like crazy because of CGI or effects. So they had to write a really good story. Yeah. And they had to hire actors that were already ridiculously good and well established, like Sir Alec Guinness, who obviously played the original Obi-Wan, and like what was his name? Peter Cushing, who played the original, you know, Grand Moff Tarkin, James Earl Jones, who did the voice of Darth Vader. They had to get like really, really good actors and a really good script, because without that, you can't, you know, it's all good and well having like a flashy lightsaber battle, but after a while, like all the kids are going to love that, but the parents are just going to be falling asleep because it's like, it's not captivating for an adult mind, really.
Yeah, I hope that the new wave of actors are like, you know, there's something that where they can really like push
rekindle the
fire of like the kind of like the old school actors that you see that are amazing, you know. I can't see it happening so much. It's not been as endearing to me, but yeah, it's probably to do with the writing, but I think it's to do with the actors as well.
I think there are some good young actors.
I think it might be the type of movie maybe because like you were saying with that type of movie, fantasy particularly, there is a lot of that CGI and world building that is done through technology, like you were saying, and I think you're probably right with your thought of what it may be. But then you watch other films like Dune, for example. Have either of you seen Dune? I really
want to watch Dune.
No, I thought it was really good, really good.
I really want to watch that.
It was directed by Denis Villeneuve. I don't know how to say his name, but apparently a really, really good director. I've watched like a couple of the films which he's directed. Incredible director, and I don't know if that's part of it as well, like the director that you're getting. If it's going to be one that pays
obviously
extra attention to detail.
The director and the writer, obviously, and the producer. That's like the three most important roles on set, aren't they?
Obviously.
Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Welcome back, everybody. That was Bathory with their track Under the Runes. Love Bathory. You're listening to Pandora's Box on AW Radio. Thanks for tuning with us this evening. We appreciate you. I found this the other day, which is pretty cool. A real letter from a Roman soldier written in the 2nd century AD by a little boy named Apion from a small Egyptian town was found. He enlisted in the Roman army in Alexandria, boarded a large government ship and sailed for Italy. The ship weathered a terrible storm. As soon as he landed, he received his new uniform and paid for it. He went to be painted in a picture for his family and sent it home along with this letter. He said, this is from Apion to his father and Lord Epimachos. It says, "Happy birthday. First of all, I hope that you are well and that things are going well for you, my sister, her daughter, and my brother. I thank Lord Serapis, who was an Egyptian god, for saving me right away when I was in danger at sea. When I arrived in Messino, the Roman port of war near Naples, I received 3 gold coins from the emperor," which might have been Emperor Trojan, "as money for the journey, and I am fine. Please write me a line, my Lord Father, on your well-being. Second, on that of my brother and sister, and third, so that I may piously greet your hand, for you have brought me up well, and I can therefore hope for a quick promotion, if the gods are willing. Give my regards to Capiton," who was one of his friends, "and my brother and my sister, and Serenilla," who might have been a family slave, "and my friends. I am sending you my little portrait via Euctemon. My new Roman name is Antonius Maximus." It's pretty interesting, isn't it, that his name's Apion, but obviously he would have had to have taken a Roman name when he joined the Roman army. So yeah, my new Roman name is Antonius Maximus, which is the most Roman name I've ever heard.
Yeah.
"All my best." The letter was written in Greek on papyrus, not by the boy himself, but by a hired public letter writer. 2 of Apion's friends who enlisted with him added their greetings in the left margin. The letter was originally folded and sealed. This passed through the highly efficient Roman military postal system and arrived safe and sound as far as a small village in Egypt where the boy's father and family read it almost 2,000 years ago. Whoa. After the death of his father, the letter was lost in the household waste, and archaeologists found it not that long ago under the collapsed walls of the house. With it was another letter written by Apion years later to his sister after he had long been stationed somewhere on the Roman frontier and had a wife and children. That's all we know. Isn't that cool, though, to think that, like... I think that sometimes we think life in the past, especially something in like 2,000 years ago, would have been like so different from today. But it's really not that different in terms of like, you know, that guy was freaking like countries away and he could still just like write a letter and then just put it in the post. Essentially.
Yeah. Extremely efficient Roman postal system.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's awesome, isn't it?
It does feel like the sentiment is, obviously that sentiment is timeless. But the sentiment does feel like it is like something from nowadays, doesn't it? Just being like, I hope you're doing well. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
I am well. Yeah. I have a wife now.
Yeah. Yeah, also, doesn't he seem like very like appreciative and grateful?
Yeah. Oh, when
to live in such harsh times, but to still be like that.
Yeah, when he said about the promotion, I thought he was asking his dad for a promotion.
Oh, right.
Do you know what I mean? Because he was like, good service, and like, you know, I heard it as these kind words, like I'll get a promotion, but it obviously wasn't like that. He was
really
saying
nice.
In the.
He's saying like
you've
been like such a good father to me and you've brought me up so well that I should probably get a promotion.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's cool, isn't it? Let's have a little look about this then. A little look at this. Anthropleura, the largest millipede ever found, was 2.7 metres long and lived 300 million years ago. Researchers in the UK have found the fossilised exoskeleton of the largest arthropod to have ever lived. Oh, freaky.
How big is it?
2.7 millimeters, sorry. So I think that's like a lot bigger than me.
I'm looking at it now and that is a beast.
Yeah, it says these giant millipede-like creatures were the length of a car and likely roamed Earth during the Carboniferous period, somewhere between 359 million years and 299 million years ago. The monstrous millipede ancestors known as Anthropleura were already known to scientists, but the discovery of the new fossilised exoskeleton fragment confirms that these ancient invertebrates could grow to be much larger than previously expected. Researchers discovered the new Anthropleura fossil, which is around 326 million years old, inside a fragmented block of sandstone on a beach in Northumberland, in northeast England. Wow. And there's like a picture, like a recreation of what it would have been like.
That's crazy, man.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's absolutely crazy.
Don't
there we go.
Yeah, can I see?
Yeah. Kind of. I've got there we go. Whoa, that's
Millipede.
Millipede.
Yeah, you can look it up anyway. You can look it up. Look it up. Anthropleura.
That thing is a beast, man.
Some millipedes that are alive today are like really, really poisonous, aren't they?
Really?
Are they?
Oh yeah, like savagely. I think they're like some of the
I didn't know that.
South American ones. Yeah, I'll quickly look it up. Why not? Let's have a look.
Millipede.
Poisonous millipedes. So let's have a little
Something
dive
about
into that.
like millipedes. I think it's the amount of legs they've got, but they're so creepy, aren't they? They're one of those creepy like
so
animals that you
unhuman.
find.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
I'm not like super chronically bad.
Obese.
I'm not super chronically obese, but I've got a bit of extra cushion for the pushing. But yeah, I'm not like one of those people that finds like spiders like super terrifying or anything. But I have to say, like, on the whole, I do find creepy
Arachnids.
crawlies like a little bit creepy. Yeah, like, you know what I mean?
Creepy
It's
and crawly.
like I think there's something far more sinister and terrifying to me that the thought that like a poisonous, I could be like camping in South America and a poisonous millipede could like go down my pants and like bite me, and then I'd be like savagely ill. There's something like more sinister
More
and horrible
sneaky,
about
innit?
that than if I heard like if I saw a bear coming. Don't get me wrong, I'd be like screwed, but psychologically I would deal with it, I think, better than the fear of almost like lying in a place where I knew there were all these poisonous, horrible little creepy crawlies, and just like the anticipation that like one of them might crawl on me in the night and then like sting me or bite me. I just don't like that. I'm like, ugh. Like, even like ticks. I love nature.
Yeah.
I love nature and I love going out in the wilderness, but there's always that little thing of me when I get back that's like, oh, I'll quickly go have a shower and just check for ticks, and it's just like, it's just annoying that you even have to do that.
Yeah, man. Horrible.
But it's like if you've proper been out in the
secretive
wilderness,
little mini kind of bug that's just all over you.
That's going to suck your blood,
Yeah.
get all fat, and then give you this savage disease like Lyme's disease, which could like, well, I mean, it kills some people, but even if you're young and healthy, it can still like make you feel really ill for like 10 years.
Yeah,
like
I think it's
10
that
years.
species thing as well of like mammals and like arachnids and
Well, and
insects and
yeah.
stuff. You know, it's like we're so different from them. Like you know, on a being
It's
level.
like that movie.
You can relate to like to other mammals a lot easier than you can relate to a spider. It's like you could tell if a cat was showing another cat affection, but can you tell if a spider's like they're just so weirdly not mammals? That, like,
they
just
seem
look
alien.
Alien,
They seem alien. Yeah, definitely. It's like that movie. What's that movie with that like 90s movie? It's actually Starship Troopers.
Oh,
that's actually a really good movie.
I love that movie.
Oh, it's really good.
It's epic.
Talking about bad acting, that's got pretty bad acting. But
Bad
it's one of those
acting.
movies that it doesn't matter.
With lots of bullets, lots of guns, bit of boobies.
Yeah. I knew you were gonna like bring that bit up. Yeah. Never fail. Never fail. Yeah, that's a good movie though. It's just like good fun.
Do you know what as well? I haven't really watched many Carry On films like before. I've seen them like on TV when I was younger and stuff. But it's crazy how like they used to be just PG movies, but you actually had titties in them and stuff. Like and, you know, and like
can you think of a movie that's an example?
Yeah. Well, like the Carry On films. So like, so like
it's Titanic PG.
It's
I
either
don't know.
PG or 12.
I think
it's
it's
definitely
12.
It's definitely not more than,
but like all the Carry On films are PG, and you actually see full on boobies in them and everything. Like, and I'm like, that's really, I like that. But
I think it's not sexual, is it? It's comedy.
Yeah.
Like, I think that should be PG, but I think that like nowadays, because we live in a more PC world,
PG.
It probably would be
like,
made to be like 12A.
But then like some things of like violence seem to like get through a lot, like you know, be a 12 or a
Whereas
PG or
you
something.
would think boobies are a lot less harmless than like someone's face getting caved in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
or like, you know, like nobody would think of like an 8-year-old playing Grand Theft Auto. But
and some of like the risky like jokes and stuff in that in as well. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's funny that this is only a PG.
Like
you know,
funny
like
sex
risque.
jokes.
Yeah, like
I love it how it's like such a
British
product of its time. Like some of the jokes in that, it's like the sort of jokes my granddad would say.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I love it.
And just the way that some of the guys are, you have
Carry
to watch
On
some Carry On
movies.
movies, man. They're brilliant.
They're classic
And
British
like,
movies.
Yeah,
the
and just
Carry On
like
movies.
every girl that walks past, like one of the guys is always just like that and taking his glass off and checking out a butt and stuff. And it's like you can't. I mean, you just like wouldn't see that on TV.
Legendary British comedians like I think Kenneth Williams, I think was one of them. Was it Sid something? He's the one that is like more like really wrinkly, and he's like,
that's the one I'm talking about. That's the one I'm talking about. It was just
Kenneth
checking
Williams.
out
Kenneth Williams was like, oh hello, Bertram. Can you think of that one? Yeah. And he was like gay in real life, but in those days he had to keep it a secret because obviously it was still a bit like taboo.
Yeah.
But it's like so funny because I feel like in those days like everyone would have known,
so camp.
but he just basically just wouldn't have said it out loud. But I mean, like he's like so camp, isn't he, man?
Yeah,
He's like
in the things.
He's like, matron.
And looking after the school of girls all the time and stuff. Oh, yeah, you need to watch them, man. Either Carry On Camping or Carry On Abroad. They're too good. They're the ones I watched the other day.
There's Carry On Cowboy. That's a really good one. And there's I think the whole premise of that, just like roughly, is there's a guy and his name's Marshall. But he goes into this like really bad outlaw town, and he's like, the sheriff's like, the sheriff's been killed or something by some outlaws, and they're like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Marshall, Marshall something, whatever, his surname. And they're like, you're the Marshal? And he's like, no, I'm Marshall. And he's like, you're the Marshal. And then they make him fight the outlaws. And he's like, ugh. But it's like this real funny comedy. About,
what's that one called?
Carry On Cowboys.
I'm gonna watch that.
It's either Cowboy or Cowboys. There's also Carry On Screaming, which is like a really funny like comedy horror.
Yeah.
And and there's like this hilarious character, and his name is what the hell is the creature's called? It's like it's almost like this Frankenstein's monster thing, and it's called it's got such a funny name. And I always used to
Oddbod.
Yeah, I remember I always used to call, like, me and my brother used to call each other Oddbod.
Oddbod Junior.
Yeah, there was like this really massive one in like either a blue, I think it was a blue suit, and then a smaller one in like a green suit, or the other way around. And they were just these two like mutant, like Frankenstein-y werewolfy creatures. And I think Kenneth Williams, actually, like the camp one, I think he was like the main dastardly like mastermind behind it all. And then there was like this sort of chick who was a bit like what's her face on the Addams Family? Can you think of her? A bit like that equivalent of like the head of the Addams Family, that the lady, Morticia, that's it, Mortician. But yeah, no, they're really good. There's also a Roman one. I can't remember. Is it Carry On Cleo? Is it Carry On Cleo?
Yeah,
that's
like
really good.
Yeah,
I think Carry On Cleo, Carry On Screaming. I think you're right. Yeah. I think Carry On Cleo, Carry On Screaming, and Carry On Cowboys is my favourite.
Nice.
Because there's some which are a bit more like mundane, or just maybe not quite so. Because I like the fact when it's like mixed in with like that funny horror element or the historical, whereas some of them are like Carry On Camping, and it's just like a funny campsite in the UK, and it's all just a bit silly.
I like that though. Yeah.
Or is it there's like Carry On Abroad?
Yeah. So
they go on holiday, but it just like floods the whole time.
Yeah, there's just this. They go to this hotel, and there's only the porter or like the manager of the hotel. It's only him, and then his like real grumpy wife who's the cook, and then their son. But they pretend, and the hotel's like half built, and they pretend that they've got more employees by just going in the back room and then coming out as the other. So he would just go in and get changed to be the porter, and then be like, wait, I go get the manager, and go back to the Italian guy, and she's like cooking on this stuff, and they're like, bloody, and they go, the bloody stone, a bloody working, like, just like it's a real funny kind of like,
and it's almost like because in like Spain's obviously always been like the classic like holiday destination for Brits.
I think this one was Italy.
Was it supposed to be Italy?
Because they're proper Italian.
It's funny because those countries, even though they're a lot drier than Britain on the whole, they're known for their sort of flash floods. And it's just like a classic thing of that. And like British people go abroad, and then there's like it always rains in England, and then they go to a country where there's a flash flood. It's like just playing on that like really funny British stereotype. But it's such like classic like British 60s humour, isn't it? I love it. It's good stuff. There's loads of those movies. There's so many, and one of the main
Carry On the buses as well. We've seen Carry On like it's like more of a series, so they're like shorter ones. But apparently they're like really good. Like so there is a series. Like there's the movies, but then there's Carry On the Buses or something, or just called On the Buses, and it's like all of the characters and that, but they're like shorter little things.
I'm annoyed that I can't remember more of the actors and actresses' names because I can picture them all in my head. I remember there's like
I can give you some.
There's a little skinny one with glasses.
Mr. Muggins.
Is it Mr. Muggins?
Mr. Muggins he is, yeah.
And then there's that, as I said, the one with the really wrinkly face, Sid James or Sid something like that.
Sid James.
Sid James. He's got like a really wrinkly face. He had like a real funny laugh. Kenneth Williams.
Yeah, he's
Kenneth Connor. There's one of them as well.
Right.
That's one.
There's a real tall one that's like looks almost like a bit like, imagine like what Willie's gonna look like when he's older if he goes bald on top. Can you picture which one I'm on about?
Yeah, on the Abroad, he was like there was like a Jewish like community that went on as well on it,
right?
And they were all maybe not Jewish, or I think it was something like clergymen, and he ends up like getting with some girl or something.
Really?
It was like really funny, but that was that one, you know.
It's also a lot of people don't realise it, but obviously Peggy from EastEnders. She's passed away now. Is it Barbara Windsor?
Yeah.
She was obviously like super famous for her role in EastEnders for like 40 years or whatever. But she became famous because of the Carry On movies.
Yeah.
And back when she started, she was almost like a Barbie doll.
Yeah.
So people think of her as like the elderly matriarch of like the frickin', you know,
She's
the
just
Mitchell
as mouthy
family.
in it, like, yo, get out of my pub. Like, she's like that on Carry On
But
films
she was
as
almost
well.
like a pin-up in those days.
Yeah,
like men used to really.
And you
like,
see
really
her boobs quite a bit. In
Yeah,
them.
you do. Yeah. Peggy Mitchell's boobies. Yeah, crazy.
They made 31 films.
Yeah, I knew it was loads. Like more. Like I reckon I've seen probably half of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Josh is currently working like as to a highline at one of the actresses' houses.
No.
So he sent me. I told him about it, and he sent me a picture. He was like, "Oh yeah, this one in Carry On Cleo, and that's actually one of the main actors. He's just like working at her house." And I was like, "That's pretty crazy." Like doing some tree work.
How
or
did you
some
guys even
weekend or
get
something.
into that conversation? Because you
'cause
said that you brought it up to him.
Yeah, because I said that I've been watching Carry On
Oh.
films, and then he was like, "Oh my god, it's
I'm
crazy that
I'm
you say about
working-
Carry On. I'm working at one of the actresses' houses."
Mate, that's like
Yeah.
some weird synchronicity
Yeah,
going on there,
yeah, man,
innit?
it's
That's
weird.
Like some crazy synchronicity. Yeah, great movies though. For anybody that doesn't know about the Carry On movies, go watch some of them. They're really, as I said, I reckon
Classic British
Cleo,
humour.
Cowboys, yeah, and Carry On Screaming. Considering Halloween's coming up, maybe watch Carry On Screaming because that's a good movie. By the way, I was wrong. There are no poisonous millipedes. Millipedes do have a defensive gland, though, that produce a smelly fluid.
The ass gland.
Yeah. That the millipede uses
I'll go
when
on
it's
then.
attacked. The defensive fluid can be highly irritating, especially if it gets into your eyes, and it's common for people to have allergic reactions to it. So that it's not poisonous,
And it stinks.
but they do have like a weird squirty thing, which
like a skunk.
at the best is revolting to
Anal
smell.
gland.
At the worst will cause an allergic reaction or cause you like mass
Yeah, pink
irritation. Yeah, basically bad pink eye.
Mass pink eye.
Yeah, mass pink eye. Mass pink eye.
An epidemic of mass pink eyes swept the nation.
Yeah, that's not
Hope
what you
not.
want, is
God.
it? That's not what you want, kids. That's not what you want. Should we get some more facts on the go?
Fact for.
Let's see. Let's see what I've saved, shall we? I just sort of like anytime I find something interesting, I save it.
I saw something interesting this week.
What's that?
It was about a painting that was discovered. I'll get up the exact fact for you now, but I saved it on my Instagram because I thought this was pretty cool. I think it was in Stuart Little, and this painting was discovered.
The film Stuart Little.
Yes, lost painting in Stuart Little. While watching Stuart Little, 1999, an art historian noticed a prop in the background was a lost painting by Hungarian artist Robert Bereny. This movie's set designer found the piece at a California antique store for $500, and it later sold for $230,000.
Wow.
And just some random historian just saw it on Stuart Little and was
Just
like,
recognised it.
I know
and
what
was like,
that is.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool.
Just old historian just watching Stuart Little, having a good time with his family and his little niece.
Yeah. This is a pretty cool fact. The world record for the most non-stop push-ups ever was set
Dom.
by a man called Don Bryant, Minoru Yoshida in 1980. How many push-ups do you reckon he managed to do without stopping?
Without stopping.
Yeah, it's a crazy number.
Is it?
It's
It's more than 1,000.
Yeah,
30,000.
nah, not that many. 10,507. But man, that's just ridiculous. Like I can't even.
I don't understand how your muscles are.
could deal with that.
Well, actually, I suppose if you developed enough, because think of when you walk and you do like 10,000 steps. That's 10,000 repetitions of a movement with your legs.
Yeah.
So I suppose you're using a muscle for every step that you take, but it's very easy.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, so almost it's like it's training his body to make it almost as easy as walking to do a push-up.
Yeah,
Do
but
you know what I
obviously we've evolved to walk,
Yeah.
whereas we haven't evolved to do that. So that's crazy. That's
I wonder
why.
how long that took him to be able to like.
Yeah, I mean the thing that's like crazy to me as somebody that does push-ups quite regularly is like after a while of doing them, say you've done like you're on your fourth or fifth set, like you get a certain amount of fatigue in those muscles, and they all like pumped up and they're fatigued, and then it just gets to the point where you just physically cannot complete another rep. So, and that's almost just like standard across the range. So the fact that guy could do over 10,000 is just almost to me. That's almost like a mini miracle. Like he's almost like just like defied the laws of physics a bit. That's a mad feat.
Do you know what I find really impressive with that as well? Is that he's gone past 10,000. I felt like there would be a mental thing with a lot of people where if they hit the 10k, they'd be like, that's done. But he was like, nah, I'm doing 550
Well, he
more.
obviously felt like he had some more in the tank.
Yeah.
So he obviously
more
he must have gone.
Imagine doing 550.
Yeah, well, he obviously went for the 10,508 and then probably collapsed. I tell you what, though, his body must have been messed up after that.
Like, his chest must have been ripped or something.
I mean, I remember I was like super impressed. One of the most impressive feats from somebody I know personally was a guy I know called Dom DeBonis. Shout out Dom. He's an absolute machine, and he's one of those guys that's just a really good jack of all trades athlete, a really good all rounder. I trained with him. I trained with him once, and we had a great training session together, and it was really fun. When you both share like a passion like that, it's a bit like, you know, when we play music together and stuff. You get that feeling of almost like excitement, almost like childlike excitement, and you feed off each other, and it's just a really nice feeling. But I'm trying to think how many. There's this place called Breen Down by Weston-super-Mare in Somerset.
Lots of steps.
Yeah, for anybody that knows it, it's so a lot of people would struggle just to get to the top of the steps. But then it's like once you're at the top, it's about probably, I don't know, it's hard to say, maybe half a mile, maybe a bit more than half a mile down to this old fort, which used to be used as coastal defence for Britain. So there's some old barracks down there. Apparently it's haunted. Cool place, go check it out. And then there's about like a mile back where you sort of go back round, and then you can go down sort of like this ramp which takes you back down to the beach essentially. I'm trying to think about how many miles he did. I've forgotten, it's too long ago he told me. But he did something ridiculous. Like, it was a ridiculous amount of laps he did. So I've done one lap of the place before. I went with my mate Jake Hardin, who is also an absolute beast. Shout out Jake Hardin. Absolute just savage human being. And just, great natural athlete, and just got some sort of weird untapped source of energy, which is just one of those guys that just keep on going. Shout out Jake, really, really funny guy as well. And one of those guys that's like brutal, but he's got like a loving heart as well. So it's nice when there's like a savage that's just also a nice guy like that. So love you, Jake. But anyway, we did one round of it, and I was like pretty done in by the time. You know, we like run to the top of the steps, and there's like how many steps do you reckon there are?
Oh, I don't know, man.
Like
loads.
300 steps, and some of them are steep. And then you run to the top, and then as I said, it's about half a mile down to the fort, a mile back, and then, you know, I'm never going to be like a long distance athlete. By the time I finished down, I was like, I'm ready to go in the car and get home. You know, like I was like done in. You know, that's like hard running, man, as well. It's not like it's like flat surface.
Cross terrain.
Yeah. But I can't remember how many laps. I think it was something insane. Like Dom did something like 60 laps.
60.
He did it for charity.
Yeah.
So fair play to him, a real good deed as well. He did it for charity, and but that was an insane feat. So that's one of the most impressive physical feats that anybody I know personally has done. But he told me that like, the day after, he said that he couldn't move from the sofa. And at first, when he was like, oh yeah, I couldn't move from the sofa the next day, and I'm like, laughed. And he was like, nah, man, I physically couldn't move from the sofa. And I was like, really? And he was like, literally like Sam, his partner, had to bring him his food and his drinks all day. Like, he was like, for a day, he was like out of commission. He said that he was on the sofa, his knees and his ankles were swollen, and he couldn't move his lower half. He said like hips were aching, like he was just out of commission. Like every time he like laughed or moved on the sofa, it was like next level DOMs. So like Sam just had to like bring him like his meals all day, like bring him food and bring him drinks, because he could like physically not move. And then even like the next day, it was like hobbling around the house.
You need to go in one of those pods in Star Wars that you lie in it like, and
back to tank.
You need to go in a back to tank for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, or like, you know, and obviously not as good as a back to tank, but you know those things that Ruta was telling us about. You didn't know about them.
Cryo chamber.
Those cryo chambers that go down to -70.
That was crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that you got to keep your head out of because it like frees your brain.
Oh yeah, you would die.
Mad.
Pulls all of the blood into your internal organs, then you get out and it goes.
Yeah,
and it's almost like, I almost imagine it in my head. It would be like a tsunami of blood just suddenly rushing around your body again, and it just like washes all out, like all the rubbish essentially. Brings in loads of like fresh, oxygenated, nutrient-rich blood.
That's what you want.
It's what you want, baby. It's crazy how many people follow the Wim Hof method nowadays. The amount of strongmen I follow and stuff like that, and Ruta and that, you know, saying that, you know, they all do it.
Yeah.
So good.
Cold, power of the cold, man.
Yeah, I follow these Scottish strongmen called the Stockman brothers, and Tom Stockman's actually the world's strongest man at the moment. And but Luke and Tom, they literally, where they live in like the Highlands,
go out for a dip.
Man, they like, it's cool. They put it on their YouTube videos. They go out into like a frozen lake with an axe, and they'll just walk into the middle of the lake, and they all just smash in like a hole, and the ice is like that, and it's like it's just like snow and ice all around them. And it looks so beautiful. And then they'll make like a little hole, but they won't do it too far into the lake. They do it so obviously it's like they wouldn't be too dangerous, so they could stand up in the lake, and they just just get in. It's like this frozen lake in Scotland. It's like nice natural way of having like an ice tub, innit? But I think, fair play to them. If you live in the middle of nowhere in like really far north Scotland, then that's the way
cool.
to do
like
it.
how cold it is in the English seas and that as well, and like and like lakes and stuff. You get in any kind of water or lake around like just normally, and it's pretty damn cold. You know? Yeah. I like doing that. Like we did that hours like not long ago. Like just a little walk down the place opposite where we are. There's like a river, and Rupert got in and he was like swimming, and I was just like, bugger it, I'm gonna get in as well, like, you know.
Nice,
like, but yeah, it was damn cold.
Oh dear.
I thought it was cool when I went to the Isle of Man last, and then I was in this really, really nice cafe in Peel, and on like the wall there, that was like they had like this little like early morning dip club, and they were basically saying like they went for a swim in the sea at Peel every single morning, and it was basically just like this really nice friendly open invitation, like anybody that wants to get involved will do it, like we'll do it together, and then we can go back and have like a drink afterwards in the cafe sort of thing. And I thought it's such a nice thing to do, isn't it? Like such a nice thing to do. But like obviously that's really cold at Peel. Obviously it's like Irish Sea, it's quite far, obviously it's a lot much further north than we are in Britain anyway, the Isle of Man. And obviously it's like island right in the middle of the Irish Sea, so it's just very cold and choppy. But lovely thing to do though.
You would feel like you really deserved that cup of tea after drinking it as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And also one nice thing about doing it there as well, it's very clean sea. Obviously there's no industrial waste in the Isle of Man.
Yeah, you could do it in like Cornwall or like or
like off the Scottish coast would be good as well.
Yeah, but like around by where we live, you wouldn't really want to do it like, you know.
Well, it's because of the estuary, isn't it?
Yeah.
The estuary's all muddy, so it's just a bit pooey really, isn't it? Bit pooey. Don't want to get in pooey water.
No, don't want no pooey water.
But you wouldn't have to drive. Drive to like Linton and Lidmouth or something.
Yeah.
Really nice sea there, isn't it? Really nice sea there.
Up round the corner.
Up round corner. It's very nice. So yeah, did you know that Steve Jobs offered Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux, a job at Apple under the condition he stopped developing for Linux, and he declined the job offer.
What is Linux?
Like it's like another computer kind of thing.
Right.
Like
in an interview with Wired, Linus Torvalds said that around the year 2000, Steve Jobs offered him a place at Apple to work on its Unix-based kernel. Unix for the biggest user base. That was the pitch, Torvalds says. However, he was no fan of Mac's OS Mac kernel, and Jobs insisted that he drop working on Linux, something Torvalds refused to do. Instead, he continued his work with the open source platform and now helps manage it on behalf of the Linux Foundation.
Oh yeah, that's it. It's open source. So it's like whereas like Windows and Mac, you've got to like buy the software and that. Like Linux is open source, so you don't have to pay for it. You can use it as an operating system for free.
I'm not a fan of Mac OS, so
no?
Fair play. I don't know why.
I love it. I've always been a Windows person, and now I'm like Mac. I'm like, I won't go back. Just the way you can even like resize screens to like see everything and work on everything, it just makes it so much quicker for me. Yeah.
Aren't Macs supposed to be way better for like creative stuff as well?
Easier. Sometimes like you can get faster on a computer generally, but now with the new Mac chips that they've done, they're like even faster than the most fast Intel chips that have been out, which are like the PC versions.
That's so cool.
And what Macs would used to do is like they'd have Intel chips in them still, so like and then just the Mac software, OS software, but like now they've got their own chip called the M1 chip, and that's like just super fast, super powerful and stuff. So they're really quick for quite cheap now as well compared to like what you can get on Windows. So
it's cool hearing you say that.
Mac.
That reminds me of being back at Curry's and like almost like selling a Mac to someone and being like, yeah, they used to use Intel chips, but now they have the new M1.
It is. It's so cool. Like, darn tootin'.
This is a very French fact. Until 1956, French children attending schools were served wine on their lunch breaks. Each pupil was entitled to 4 glasses of wine a day.
Whoa!
Each about 125 milliliters.
Cool. I wonder how like strong the wine was.
Well, I just guess like normal wine, I guess.
Do you reckon they actually have that much at home? Because I know they can have a bit, but that's quite a lot
with meals and stuff. Don't know.
I wonder if there's some kids that would be coming from France and then being like, Wait, why are you giving me this?
yeah.
I always
Even
thought it was
full
mad,
glass of wine.
like, when you think of how strong wine is, up to like 12 to like 14.5% or whatever, like in Rome, it was like super rare for people not to water down their wine. So you would be like classed as like a, like delinquent if you didn't drink watered down wine, because it would be seen as like a bad thing to be drunk and stuff, but a nice thing to drink wine. So they'd water down their wine all the time. It was normal. I'm like, fair play, Romans.
Yeah. This is a bit of a mental fact, because obviously it just goes completely against science. The oldest person ever documented was called Jean Calment. I don't know if it's like Calmer. She might have been French, I don't know. She smoked for 100 years, drank a daily glass of wine, and ate 2 pounds of chocolate every week. She died at the age of 122. She outlived not just her daughter, but also her grandson.
Wow.
That's crazy.
She smoked for 100 years. That is crazy, man. Like,
Man, 122 years.
Power of the mind, man. Oh, man, I am like so bright on this camera. I like, my face is like white.
you're like an angel, Drew.
Uh-oh.
You're like a little angel.
It's just funny. It's just a funny part of the pod.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Look at that.
Try and fix it.
Nah, don't worry, man. It's all good.
This is quite a cool fact. In 1984, a woman started hearing a voice in her head. The voice told her that she had a brain tumour, where the tumour was, and how to treat it. Despite no other symptoms, she went to the doctors, and they eventually ordered tests and found a tumour exactly where the voice said it would be.
Whoa,
That's creepy.
that is some
That's
spirit guide.
That's
This
like
guy's-
cool but creepy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, creepy in a good way, of course.
Spirit guide's got your back.
Those instincts.
So the woman had no previous psychological problems. She first heard a voice while at home reading, which asked her not to be afraid. Fearing she had gone mad, she sought medical help. The woman appeared to be cured after receiving counselling and medication, but while on holiday her hallucination returned. This time there were two voices. They told her to return to England immediately because there was something wrong with her brain. Back in London, the voices gave her an address to go to, the brain scan department of a large London hospital. The woman persuaded her husband to drive her there. A brain tumour was discovered, which was duly removed, after which she made a full recovery. As she regained consciousness after the operation, she heard the voices for the final time. They told her, "We are pleased to have helped you. Goodbye."
Oh
my God!
That's so sick.
That's so cool. I like that.
That's
I
really
like that
sick.
story.
Yeah. That is crazy.
That'd
isn't it?
make anyone religious.
Spirit guide's got
That's
your
so
back.
cool.
Yeah,
So cool.
that is cool. I just wanted to literally one thing I said last week on the pod. I wanted to correct myself because, like sometimes when you're talking about stuff, and sort of like you're on the spot, and sometimes not necessarily that you say things that you don't mean, but sometimes it's hard to convey what you want to convey with words. So there's just one thing that I said which like niggled me that I said.
Oh,
so I
right.
just wanted to correct myself out there because obviously I want to portray myself in the most accurate way possible. So remember we were talking about the main point that I was getting across, I completely back, was what we were saying, we were talking about at the time, to go back, we were talking about how if you think something is bad, or if you think that like a crime has been committed, if you then act even worse than that, or if you commit a worse crime because you think that, do you know what I mean? Because you think that person is a crime, well then that's silly because you're doing something worse than the bad thing that you thought the person did.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Are you following me? And one thing I did say, as I said almost like an analogy, I said like if you killed someone for hitting somebody, then I said then that makes you an idiot. I do just want to like go back on that a little bit, like clarify that a little bit. So I don't necessarily think that's always the case. So for example, I think it's actually good that in states like Texas and America, I think if somebody is physically aggressive towards you and basically attacks you, obviously in Texas you could like even shoot that person dead, and that would be legal. Because if somebody attacks you and you're defending yourself, then that's fair game. So literally that's about it really. That's all. That's literally all I wanted to clarify. It was just that one thing. Obviously, I think, as I said, I do completely agree with that. With the point I was trying to get across, which is obviously don't enact a bigger sin than the sin you are trying to punish someone for, because then you are now worse than the person that you think is bad in the first place. But just that one specific statement, I said.
Can I do that
wanted to
too?
clarify.
Because there's something which I wanted to clarify,
You can
which
do
I
it,
know
yeah.
I didn't do. And
Freedom
then
of speech.
I, the same as you, I sort of went home and was like, I feel like I could have said that better. But
What's
it was
that?
when we were having the conversation on cancel culture.
Yeah.
And I think you asked me, do you think that person's like career or whatever should have been ruined? And I said yes. I don't think that. But I think the point I was trying to make, rather than, and this is where I went wrong. I think I shouldn't have picked a example, because I didn't have an example to mind.
Well, I asked you to say an example because but the point was you said that you thought there was a time and a place for cancel culture.
Yeah.
So
And
you still agree with that? Do you?
The point that I would think I was trying to make, rather than like picking up an example, was that if you were to put it in the sense of a community, and I think if we were to say, right, you're in a community, you're in a tribe, right, essentially, and there was someone that was constantly going around, just being absolutely hateful, negative all the time, you would want to kick that person out of your community. You would want to, in my opinion, get rid of that person's voice, because it would make everyone else's life a better life. And
Yeah.
I think you're blurring the lines though on what cancel culture is.
I think it is quite blurry lines.
You either believe in cancel culture or you don't. You said that you think there's a time and a place for cancel culture. I don't, because I believe in democracy. You can't believe in democracy and at the same time believe in cancel culture, because the two are diametrically opposed. Simple as that. That's just almost like, that's just a fact. That's just a fact.
I think there are more blurred lines to it.
Well, I think that you could literally talk to anybody that has looked into it enough, and they would say that is a fact.
That's fair.
That's
fair. Yeah. I'm not going to act like
that's what JP would say. If you ask my old man, I know for a fact that he would say the same thing. If you ask JP, he would say the same thing. Bernard would say the same thing. If you ask any intelligent, knowledgeable person that has looked into these things, they will say the same thing. You can't believe in cancel culture and at the same time believe in democracy. You can think that you do, but you're wrong. Some things are black and white. A lot of things in life are grey. Some things are black and white. And these are one of those things that are black and white.
Yeah, and if you start introducing that, then it will blur the lines of black and white, and then that causes issues.
And what we were talking about last week as well, what we were saying is that often it depends the difference between an opinion and a crime. And I think that your point where you were saying about like the Roman gladiators, and you were saying that that monk that made it, that fought to basically make it illegal because people were getting killed as a result of that, and that was like this brutal barbaric thing. But then I said after that, but if somebody had an opinion that said that they think that it should be brought back, well, that's fine. That's the guy's opinion.
Done in a democratic way.
That guy's not breaking a law by having that opinion.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like him, or even if you don't like it, tough. That's society.
Because that is the rules of the society. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, man, and it's an inbuilt human thing as well. Like, because Jordan Peterson's talked about it as well, about being accepted in a group of friends and stuff, and in schools, how it's really important that, because it's a very human thing to need to be able to communicate and to with each other in that way. Because back in the day, if you were in a tribe and you couldn't get on with the rest of the tribe, then you would socially, then you would almost and you wouldn't survive, because you would be left on your own.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's like a very human thing as well, I think. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Think of it like this, Bullwinkle, right? I really don't like the fact that you said last week that you think there's a time and a place for cancel culture. That really bothers me. Actually goes as far to say as it makes me a bit angry, right? Right. But you are allowed to talk on my show freely. Not only that, but I would never ever try and say that you shouldn't be able to say what you want on your own shows.
Yeah.
Because I believe in democracy.
Yeah.
So, there we go. All right, cool. End of the episode. Cheers for watching the pod, guys. We appreciate you. We love you. We believe in democracy. Sorry, apart from Bullwinkle, who's part of the Hitler Youth.
Yeah.
We apologise about him.
Living up to the haircut, man.
Yeah, we'll see you next time, guys. Cheers.
Hum diddle 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 hum diddle I, hum diddle 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 hum diddle I, hum diddle 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 hum diddle I. It's Pandora's box.